podcast has gone out today, so that's super exciting.
Yeah, it has, yes. So tagging you in everything.
Yeah, we'll get it shared everywhere. I'm like, let's put that all over the place. And I've seen your email, so I'll go on and get some of the social media links as well and put that all over the place. Something I haven't really talked about publicly, so it'll be quite interesting to see what the response is.
Yeah, you'll all have to take a listen. Carol's sharing a recent experience with facing some health challenges and helping to spread the message of why you need to take care of your health now, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and it's on LinkedIn, isn't it? So I'll share it as well, because certainly a lot of my corporate friends, that will be their life as well. They will recognise that. If I have no symptoms, then I will assume I am fine, even though I am acting this way.
Yeah, definitely. I can vouch for that as well.
Let me just let Emma in. So, you know the drill. If you want to ask a question, just either pop your hand up or come off of mute and ask away. If you don't like to speak, you can write it in chat and I'll read it from there. So, yeah, go for it. Just if you've just joined, just letting you know that it has been recorded. So, Jolanta, you're first. Go for it.
Hi, thanks, Carol. Hello, everybody. So my question is more around, so I've got it clear in my head about the services, my pricing points, and I'm getting more active on LinkedIn. But when somebody goes onto my website, obviously I've got the prices on there for private clients. And I'm just wondering, would you recommend that I take those prices off? Because obviously if someone from corporate looks at my prices and then I say, well, yes, my 30-minute nutrition as the expert consultation is, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds for 30 minutes. And they look at 90 pounds for a 1.5 hour consultation.
So I think you can do I think you can do a couple of things. I mean, one thing you can do is you could take the prices off for consumers, but I think that's probably not great, because I think the consumer market want to know how much it is before they make that buying decision. And I don't think you want them in a big complicated funnel at that price point. I think you want them to look at what you've got and say, that's for me, I buy that. I personally don't have any issue with people having a completely different price from corporate than what we have from consumers, especially when, so I know because we've had this conversation, that your prices are deliberately quite low for consumers because that's very much mission-led work. So I think you get to charge what you want, and if corporates want to ask you why that is, you explain that's a subsidised rate that you're providing because that's the work you're doing. You're not going to subsidise, you know, a corporate rate. That would be outrageous. But I think in reality, what you'll find is most of them will come to your site and they will go on to the page that they want to look at, and that's what they'll look at anyway. So I've got quite a few clients who've got like a consumer side and then a business to business side, sometimes like to small businesses, and then a corporate side. Like if you want to be open about your pricing, you just be out there, and the fact is you're servicing different markets. You have to generally have slightly different insurance if you're working with a corporate market. You know, there are other costs associated with it because, you know, it's more business development to convert to a sale. So it's all about you keeping your profit margin right. So I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you, Carol.
You're all right. Who wants to go next? I can see some stuff in the chat. I think it's Sneha saying good morning, but I'll check if there's any other questions. Oh, just letting someone in, and it's very glitchy this morning in Teams. It's freezing every time I'm pressing to let someone in. Hey, Sonal, you're next.
It's a similar question to what you were just asked, but it was about, because on my, I suppose, consumer page, I was going to put for corporate prices go here, but I'm not going to put that now because we are building a corporate page and an educational establishment page. The question I had was, in the corporate brochure, that you've had a look at. I was looking at it again last night because I do things like that when I can't sleep. And would you, if it's a corporate brochure, would you have the children stuff on there as well? So the children courses and the children workbook, or would you put that solely into the educational establishment brochure?
I would put that solely into the educational establishment brochure.
Okay, because I was looking at it last night and I kind of noticed they were, and I was thinking, well, you know, I don't know, if KPMG were looking at it, they might wonder why she suddenly got a children's storytelling workbook in there, and that might put them off.
I mean, I don't think it would put them off. I don't think people are put off by people who are multi-talented and can do a range of things. If you want a brochure that shows everything, that's fine. If we were just sending it to corporates, I would only send them what they need, because like when you're in corporate, you get such a volume of information coming at you. Like I think I've said before, I would get like 250 to 300 emails. Some of those emails I'd be getting might have 4,000 pages of words in them, because it would be attachments and folders and files, because I worked in, you know, project environments, and you would just have so much information that people get pretty good at filtering. But if you do the filtering for them, it means they're not going to stop reading at a certain point.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. And then the second question that I had was around, so we've built the sort of the corporate page, and I need to be reviewing that today or tomorrow. Does that have to, do corporates have to come into that through a funnel, or can they just go on that page and fill in a form saying, hey Sonal, love what you do, could we have a chat about 25 people on a online workshop? So almost like a contact form on that page, or without a funnel, so they don't then get all the emails afterwards, which would annoy the hell out of them. Would you do that with a contact form, so they fill in a form with what they want that drops into my inbox, and then I put together a post and send it out to them? Or am I thinking about this in too much detail?
No, that's actually how my corporate website works, because I don't actually send them like a nurture sequence, because I know for my niche market that's actually okay. If they sign up to other things, we might put them through a nurture sequence, but that's like the market's fairly divided. But my actual webpage isn't really from a funnel. Like you'll find it if you click on LinkedIn. We do different things where we might have a QR code and it takes you to our website, but we're going to add some interactions to our website later. But we're coming up, our next anniversary will be 5 years, and our website has worked for inquiries basically on having the web page and the contact form. Obviously, I get lots of offers of nonsense through the contact form, but that's actually bots, and we actually they don't even come at my inbox. They're filtered out by the woman who maintains our website. It's got something set up so that only genuine inquiries come through. What I do notice though is a lot of people will look on my website and then they'll find my email address on LinkedIn and email me personally. And that's fine. I don't mind that. We've got small numbers of high value clients, so that works. I don't get like 500 inquiries a day. I mean, I'm sure I would find a way to cope with that problem if it happens. but we like, that's not the size of business we are, and I don't think you're aiming to be either. So the website with contact form is fine.
Yeah, and the reason I was asking is we've just gone through that process where I was getting 500 spam messages via bots in Russia and Pakistan and across Europe, and it was, you know, waking up to like 500 emails, literally 500 emails, and all of them were spam. But then you go through each one separately, and then there's one that is real, which I could have missed if I'd just gone, you know, Control A, Control Delete or something. It would have, yeah. So that was my worry. Am I introducing something that's going to suddenly just give me loads of spam again? But they are putting something on this. That's the techie side. I have no idea how that works, but they are talking about putting something on that will hopefully stop that.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what Kim's got on ours, but I know before I had her do my website, I would just have all of these coming through, and then whatever she's put on, it really is only genuine inquiries. So whatever it is seems to be able to filter out the bots, so the sort of mass mailers. I'll get the occasional one, but that's more like somebody's doing a marketing thing. Which always makes me laugh, because they'll be like, I had a look at your website, it's terrible, you should hire me to like make it better. And I'm like, I don't know what about saying like what your work is terrible makes you think. I'm like, well, now I'm hooked, come and help me.
Yeah, mine's always, hi, my name's Eric, and I've just looked at your website. I could increase your SEO and get you 10 leads today. Yeah, that's Eric from Russia. Seems to keep popping up. But yeah, okay. So I can have a corporate page, an educational establishment page, 2 separate brochures, and then a form, and they can come through to me via that form. And then depending on what they put, I can send out a proposal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. I just wanted to understand that in my head, because I was just so fearful I was going to get another bot deciding to sit on my website and sending me lots of spam. It's horrible. It's really horrible. It's like so stressful. If anyone ever gets it, it's so stressful, because you literally have to go, yeah, spam delete, yeah, spam delete, until you find the actual one contact. I don't know if anyone else has gone through it, but it was a couple of weeks of like, I don't want to open my emails.
Well, it starts with, oh, I've had loads of inquiries, my SEO update has done so well. And then you're like, no, what I have attracted are bots. So what I'm good at is attracting bots, and they are not buying anything from me.
Oh, and they kind of get on your website as well, don't they, through the blogs?
Yeah.
Oh, the blogs ones, if anyone hasn't had them yet, they're the ones that are usually offering some special private services.
Yeah, I've had a couple of offers to be a sugar mama a couple of times, and a sugar baby. I'm like, probably not. It's like, you don't have to take your clothes off. I'm like, mate, I live in Scotland. I'm barely taking my jumper off, so I don't know what you think's happening here for 3,000 a week. Like, no, chances of me even taking a blanket off my lap are small for 8 months of the year. So I am the wrong target audience for you.
Well, apparently they can make me an Indian princess and I'll never have to work again.
Wow, that is nice.
Yeah,
that is nice.
Don't know how my husband will feel about that, but
I also don't like that they've assumed that you aren't already an Indian princess.
That's a good point, actually. I'm going to use that next time. Thank you, but I'm already one.
Yeah, and if you choose to work.
Thanks, Carol. That'd be really useful, because I'm catching up with my website developer later today. So, but yeah, if anyone knows a quick win on that stupid bot spam stuff, that would be great. But I'll leave it to the techie people.
Yeah, there's definitely something they can put on. And the girl who does my website used to do the NHS website. So she's like obviously really good on the whole cyber security side. And because we store government documents for some of our contracts, we've got to be really, really careful. So the thing she's got definitely works. And we've not like spent a lot of money on it. It's all pretty low cost. So I'm sure you can get that. And
then final question, is the speaker profile up in Cartry yet?
Yes, it's called the retreat profile, but it's my speaker profile, my retreat profile are the same. Yeah, it's in there.
I put it on my to-do list to do tomorrow, so I thought just check before I try and look for it.
Yeah, I think it's on the page called Useful Resources.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to do the 2 in the chat, and then I'll come to Zane. So Nicola's saying, is anyone seeing lots of organic inbound inquiries from their website? Maybe people want to ask that and share. I get a small amount of organic inbound inquiries from my website. I serve a niche market, and I'm fairly well known in that market anyway. So I tend to get people like come to me because they've kind of either seen me at like an APM webinar, or they've met me, or someone's recommended me, or they've seen my stuff on LinkedIn that I put out. Quite often they will tell me they've looked at my website, or they mention stuff on it, but like, oh, I see on your website it says you do training or competence frameworks or whatever it is, or sometimes they'll come and say, do you definitely do other infrastructure, not just transport? So I know they look at my website, but they tend to then contact me direct, because my information is really easy to find. Like, that's one of my sort of business principles, is that it's easy for them to contact me. That's not for everyone, and you have to be quite careful about putting that out there, because if you've got a high volume business model, your phone and your emails are obviously constant, so you want them more through your website, whereas I'm quite happy for people to phone me or email me. I do have voicemail turned off, so they can't actually leave me a message, but they can call or email me really easily. And what about other people? Other people could share their experience if they want. The reason I'm bobbing my head about is the arm for the webcam is right where the chat is today. I must have moved it earlier. So Neo, oh Neo, I've seen all the media you've had for your factory opening. I'm so excited for you. If anyone doesn't know Neo, she is absolutely fabulous. She is a manufacturer of ethical and vegan, and I said vegan, ethical and sustainable, but they are different things. Beauty products, and she just made the transition from having a really busy job and running this business full time into the business, and she's had loads of great coverage because she actually has created like a manufacturing plant, created jobs in it, and moved into the manufacturing plant from like starting up in her garage. It's phenomenal, and her products are great. I was so excited, Neil, because I could actually have my photos in Toronto taken and not have to like cover my legs, because normally I've got a skin condition that I normally would have to cover up either with makeup or tights, and because I use Neo's product, I don't have to. It's like, so that's amazing. I know I thought I did to message and tell you. So that is Neo, because I know some of you don't know Neo because you've come into this club from a different route. So that is very exciting. I'm just looking at Neo's question, which is, if you have a corporate page on your website, what do you call it? And do you add previous work on the corporate page? So some people call it for business. So they'll have like a page that's like, it'll say for consumers, one for business, or they'll just have a tab that just says business. I've seen a nice one recently that says how we help companies. So you can put that on. You can also have, I mean, you can use the word corporate, but a lot of businesses, I think for you, Neo, wouldn't think of themselves as corporate because they're educational establishments, or they might be large businesses but don't necessarily see themselves as corporate. So I think for you, either putting like how we help companies or our business page would be nice. Nicola's is called Services Business, yeah. That's a nice way to put it as well. So I would use the word business in there somewhere.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Carol.
Did you have a nice weekend on the opening?
Gosh, it was hectic. It was lovely. Beautiful launch. Yeah, beautiful launch.
It just looked amazing. It looked spectacular.
I'm still trying to get myself back. It was really fun. You know, it was nice to have the mayor there and a few, you know, VIPs there. So, yeah, it was brilliant, and family and friends.
Nice, yeah. All the photos looked great. It's like that just looks like such a fun time. It's like, oh, I want to go there.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'm super excited to see what happens next for you. All right, next is Zane.
Hello, I can't see myself, so it's a weird one today. But as long as you can see me and I'm not like a ghost with a sound.
No, we can see you.
Okay. What I wanted Carol to ask, it's a really silly question, but I think these things come up when you start building the websites and everything. So what I'm thinking about on the website, so if let's say there's a corporate client and they would land on my website from somewhere, I don't know, from Google or LinkedIn, and so in order for them to sort of actually really proceed to read further, I'm wondering what would be the quick sort of phrase for me to use. You know, I'm Zane Zalit, Ayurveda well-being. Sorry, I very often get this. My mind freezes. Ayurveda well-being expert, or just Zane Zalit well-being. So what would they expect to read in order to sort of get assurance to actually read further? What would you say? Because they want to know where they have landed and what this person does. So I was just wondering what would be the catchy, not catchy, but really, you know, the phrase what they're looking for.
I think you do have to have the word well-being in there because you want them to scroll. I think for you, imagery is going to be a lot more powerful than words.
Okay.
Because you have a product. So you, when I think of you, like I see the image of what you have,
Yeah.
So I think it's connecting that pretty quickly to a photograph. I think whether you put Ayurveda in or not, I'm not. You'd have to test it almost to see whether it makes a difference. I think you have to have well-being. I think the Ayurveda bit is more about, like, what's your marketing plan? Is your marketing plan that when you want people to think of you, you want them to think Ayurveda well-being? Or do you want them to think well-being, and then like the Ayurveda is almost like the afterthought of, oh, that's her modality? Because lots of people who do well-being, and then they'll have a particular way of doing it. So it's really more thinking like, hang on, let me let Olivia in. I would think more about, sorry, let me just see if there's anyone else waiting to come in. I would think more about from the marketing perspective, because I don't think having the word there or not will determine whether they scroll down.
Yeah, I was thinking to have on the homepage where they land, actually to have introduction video, because I think if I'm considering to do the seminars, obviously, you know, there's the products as well, which should be the, you know, that's another thing where I'm thinking how to call the heading, either corporate gifts or just gifts. But I think that, you know, if we're thinking that they are looking for the person to run the workshops, they probably want to see me, how I talk, you know, who am I? Right? You know, the picture is engaging, a lot of Photoshop, and it's very pretty. But maybe I thought the interactive video, and apparently I just learned recently that there are things what can be done. They actually sort of make the video engaging. So I thought to have that on landing page, along with saying, you know, either Zain Zalayat Wellbeing expert or Ayurveda Wellbeing expert, something like that. Yeah. So, but wellbeing wear definitely will be there. So I just was wondering what's the best way to phrase in order to engage the visitor quickly.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, think about whether you if you want them to always think Ayurveda, you put that in. If you're not, make it shorter. I think the video will work really well. It doesn't need to be particularly long, but yeah, if you can put in a video that shows a little bit of what it's like, then that's a really good way to filter people in and out. So now just had a good question there to say, would it work well for Zain to start with a question? Your question could link to your video, like something along the lines of, do you want to see what it's like to work with Zain?
Yeah, it's a very good idea. I have so many ideas, but I think I finalized that it could be a question above the video, but I finalized that I want to start with a statement of the problem, and then how my service can help, and then explain about myself. So that's, you know, just very brief. So then they don't have to sit there 10 minutes and listening about all of what I do, but just to have a sort of idea of, you know, what I want to achieve, and, you know, how I want this to work, and why I'm doing this. So yeah, something like that. Thank you so much. So I'll keep thinking of these tag phrases to put there. Thank you so much.
A good thing to do is like put it on your website and see, you know, look at it yourself and think, change it, and then just decide what you prefer. You know, take a shot of each of them and choose what one you like best.
Yes, that's good option. Yeah. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you.
You're welcome. I saw a question from Paula. Paula saying, I serve all businesses. Should I have a separate page for corporates? I don't know that you need it, Paula. Let me have a look. Can you put your web page in? Put your web page address in.
Sure.
And then I'll have a look, because it can be quite...
I've been struggling to think what to put on my web page. I've duplicated it and ready to put the content in, and then I think, actually, I mean, the only thing that I did wonder is if the prices would be any different, but then I wouldn't want them to see both prices. So then I thought, just have a landing page with different prices. And then why do the prices need to be different? I don't know. I've gone round and round in circles.
I mean, they don't have to be different. For some people, they definitely will be different. They might not be different for you. Your advantage from being in corporate might just be you get much bigger bulk orders. So if you're not differentiating on price, you don't have to do that. I'm just going to have a little look.
I had a discovery call this week with a potentially big contract. It wasn't corporate, it was a single man business. And he decided to go with somebody else because I was too corporate. I think that's a compliment, actually.
I think that is a compliment. I am having a little bit of a challenge that when I am trying to look at your web page, it's blocked by my Bitdefender.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to say understand the risks and take me there anyway, but I don't know if you know that.
No, I'll look into that.
I'm sure, I've looked on your website before and that's not happened before, so I don't know why that's happened. I don't think you necessarily, I don't think you do need to have it separate looking at this, because you've got business support solutions and you've got, like, a lot of them won't necessarily know what an online business manager is, but they can go straight to your operation support, projects and strategy. They can go to your VA support. Yeah, I don't think for you, Paula, you need a separate, I don't think you need something separate. I think this covers it.
And do you think the same price then? That makes sense.
I think it's probably the same price. You may end up, as you grow in the corporate market, you may end up with more premium services that are only for corporates, but I don't think that's problematic for you having the same price.
Okay, well, that solved a big job. Thank you. I'm really struggling with the brochure. I just don't know what to say in it and how to get the tone right in there.
And I think I'm going to get, you did ask me about my diary. I also have an assistant, so I don't manage my own diary. So I will get someone to get in touch with you and we'll get that set up, get our session set up. That will hopefully help with that.
Okay, thank you.
What have you struggled with particularly? What's been tough?
Well, the thing is, I'm a perfectionist, so I tried to get the design exactly right from the outset, which is stupid. Then I thought, no, let's go straight to a Word doc, and then let's get the content down in there. And I'm not really a very wordy person, so sometimes I have to fill my sentences out because I'm just very, let's just get the message across. Whereas I have to go back and put fluff in to be a bit softer. That's just who I am. I think it's years of being told to keep emails really short and stuff in previous jobs. But I can't think. I mean, I guess what problem am I trying to solve? And is it always only temporary? Because why would I have got one corporate client. It's a big international bank, and the COO likes working with VAs, which I find very random that they don't employ a PA. But anyway, she prefers it. But how many people would how many corporates would not employ a PAEA? Is it always just a temporary fix, like holiday cover or short-staffed or a big project?
So I think the nature of that is changing. I think before people pretty much only really did have it as a temporary fix, but I think the nature of hybrid working and the ongoing recognition that some jobs can be done away from a desk is actually changing that people are now starting to look at these as more permanent solutions. And I'll tell you one of the problems that it solves. When you have a PA attached to a job or a person, you get two issues. So if you've got someone who's got a PA and that PA is attached to the job, when the person moves, the PA quite often ends up wanting to move with the person in another role. But if the PA is attached to the job, they don't get to move, and that person, that director, moves to be a chief, and they get a new PA that goes with their job, and that causes a bit of disengagement because the PA wants to move. So what happens is if they didn't get to move, sometimes they'll leave the firm or they'll change jobs. So it causes disruption where the PA is attached to the person. Then what tends to happen is they will follow that person around the company. So wherever they go, you take your PA or your EA with you. Now, what happens when you leave? the first thing you do is you recruit your EA and your PA from elsewhere, and the company loses them. And that's why, and I've heard this in boardrooms talked about, that's why quite often people will not invest in training EAs and PAs, because they know if they're working at director or C-suite level, that there's a high likelihood they'll leave the business with that other person. I've been guilty of it too. When I left, I tried to get my EA to work for me. The reason she wouldn't is because remote working was just not a thing then. It was a little bit, but I know that now I could probably have got, like, if we fast forwarded to now, I bet I could have got Margaret to come and work with me, because she could have stayed in Canada, I could have stayed here. My whole life would have been 1,000,000 times better, because that was, I always joked with my husband, like, I could leave you easier than my EA behind, which apparently only 50% of people in my marriage thought that was funny. The other 50% were not amused. But the reality is, like, that becomes such a big support to you. So I think that seeing a VA as an ongoing solution now is probably something that you could actually do some marketing around, and show people, yes, this is a temporary solution. Here's all the great reasons you should do it temporary. But hey, have you thought about actually adapting your business model? Because do you know what? One of the things I think you get the benefit of having, like, diversity of virtual assistants across the team.
Yeah.
Because quite often you have, like, good PAs and EAs, but you'll kind of be like, oh, they're good at, you know, supporting and managing your diary and, like, not letting anyone pester you. There'll be other people who actually, they're really good at anticipating what you've got going on and getting you prepped for it. Like my EA, I would look in my diary and she'd be like, okay, so here's everything that's happening. I've started a PowerPoint presentation because I know you need that set up. I've arranged your travel. So people have different kind of strengths. Others are basically just so connected across the organisation. They're the real, like, plugged into the whole, like, admin network, and that'll be the skill. But you'd be using virtual assistants, obviously you get to tap into a wider market.
Yeah, okay. What I'll do is I'll try and get a good draft together so we've got something to talk around when we have a chat.
Yeah. Do you and Wendy know each other? Because you know that you're both in the same field.
No.
So you're both in the same field as each other. So it might be worth a chat, because if you're ever looking at something really big, you know, that could be a good collaboration.
Yeah, sure. I'll get in touch, Wendy.
I sometimes you forget when people are, like, in a group program, that because you know them all, you forget that they don't necessarily know each other. And like, on my screen, you're only one person apart. I'm like, you might not have known that.
No, didn't. I'll look it up. That's great. And that's been helpful, that whole website page thing, because I was struggling with that as well. So that's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, I can see why you're struggling, because you would be replicating so much similar information, and I don't think you need to.
No. Okay. That's great. I think that's enough to be going on with. The other thing is, when I did my whole list of, like, who to approach, really it was a stab in the dark, and I think I need to be much more strategic about it. So I think I'm going to go back to that, because I feel like it's not targeted enough and not strategic enough.
I mean, it's worth always, like, just going back and revising it, and then thinking about revising it, like, every so often, like basically once a quarter is when I sit down and look at my pipeline, because sometimes the research that I've done has made me realise, actually, I don't particularly want to work with that company, or are they just going to be too hard to get, or I realise they're buying from a particular consultant and I don't really want to compete with them. And one of them I realised recently, they compete with one of my own clients, so I have to actually, like, if I want to work with them, I just go through my client. So it is worth just keeping revisiting it, Paula.
Yeah, I started off looking at the tech industries, because we work a lot in tech startups and things. I thought we know a lot about that already, but we've also got a couple of people in the financial industries. And I don't know, maybe I will just stick with that. I've got nothing to lose by putting out an email to them, have I?
Exactly. It's the cost of an email.
Yeah. And if it's not the right industry, I'll just try again.
Exactly. You just look for another one. One of the things that that we've definitely noticed is when I'm in offices, it used to be, and I really miss this, right? Because I always know, if you want to know what's going on in a business, you speak to the PAs and the EAs, they know everything, they know like who's in the ascendancy, who's on the who's like how you get a meeting room, like they are really like the receptionists are how you know how to navigate a company. And the thing we've really noticed now is because we're doing lots of work back in offices, there are very few admin people in PA or EA roles back in offices. So I think
Really?
the time of like being able to capture that virtual assistant mode is, I don't ever remember a time that would have been a thing.
No,
it's very frustrating because I'm like, but
yeah.
these are the people that I know how I can go to, because I know the EAs for most of my clients. So when I go into their office, I'd always like go over and have a chat, and I'm going over empty desks, like, and I can't email them for the gossip. They're not daft. They're not going to put something in writing that's get FOI'd.
That's a good point. Never thought of that. Thanks, Carol. That's helpful.
That's all right. Neo has got a question. Can you explain sponsorship and how does one get a sponsor? So the sponsorship means two things. So the work that I do in sponsorship is project sponsorship, and a project sponsor is the person who puts together the finance package, scopes out what a project's going to be, and then oversees the project to deliver the benefits from start to finish. They own like the business case, the stakeholders, all of that stuff. The other type of sponsorship is getting a sponsor to fund you. Is that the one you're talking about?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
So you can get
what it is. I'm trying to
right.
what sponsorship is.
So sponsorship for me is
in corporate. What does
in
it?
Corporate, yeah. So
Yeah.
corporate sponsorship is more when they will basically. So if I give you an example, I've got a book launch event in September. I could go to my corporate clients and say, would you like to give me some sponsorship for the event? They would basically pay me some cash, and then I would put like banners up with their logo on it that would promote their work, or I would maybe give away freebies that would be, so say they had pens and they wanted like every bag to have a pen in it, they would give me like their corporate, branded pens and put it in that. So that's more like sponsorship as a form of marketing, and that's quite popular for events, for webinars. Like a nice thing that you could potentially do is if corporates were sponsoring an event, they could potentially buy your product and have it white labeled. So it would say Uhuru, but they would maybe have like a little bit of their logo on the label somewhere, and they would put, say, a Marula body cream in every package because they're sponsoring an event in the beauty industry. So that's more kind of what sponsorship is like in that way. So you'll see lots of people getting sponsorship for that type of thing.
Because I've heard people explain in a way that sponsorship is when someone's speaking on your behalf in offices. Let's say they kind of not mentoring, kind of supporting it, but then I don't know. I'm not sure. So I wasn't clear whether is that what you were talking about when in your book and that kind of sponsorship.
Yeah, so in the kind of sponsorship we do in projects, the sponsor is usually the advocate for the project. So they'll be the person that goes around and tells everyone, like my job when we were doing real projects would be to not convince everyone, but to tell everyone why we should do this project, like why should this be funded over the rest of the projects, what are the benefits, why the disruption is worth it, get everyone bought into it. So that would be a big part of my roles. I used to say you're like the ambassador for the project, but you don't have Ferrero Rocher to dish out, because on public projects you've never got any sweeteners. Private projects you've usually got some incentives you can use, and throw a bit of a party and be like, hey, I know we're going to make disruption, but have a sausage roll and a glass of wine, it'll be fine. So that kind of sponsorship is more what I would say is advocacy. But you wouldn't really get people doing that for a small business unless they are doing it as like an angel investor, or they're sort of like they're part of a program.
Well explained. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to look and see. So Wendy's saying, with people getting so many emails these days, would it be beneficial to send out hard copy brochures, as I don't think I would open an attachment on an email from someone I didn't know. Yes, absolutely. So I don't know if I've been saying this before, but I recommend that you send like a hard copy or brochure to people, because not just because they, and that's a good point about the emails, but because when someone sends you mail in corporate, it's really rare now. Like you used to like get post and you would sit and open it and there'd be loads of stuff. Now when the mail room says to you there's mail, you're like, oh, mail for me? And so you actually have to like have a physical then interaction with the mail, which you've so got used to not doing. So you have to physically open it, and then you're being presented with someone. So I like sending stuff through the mail to people for the fact that I know I'm creating a different kind of interaction than an email or a phone call. And there's something about having that sort of physical, not product, but the physical brochure in your hands and opening it and looking at it, that I think it just kind of changes the dynamic of it. So it's definitely worth doing that. All of these are popping up. And yeah, a lot of people will, if you're sending your brochure, make sure you do send it as a PDF, because that's pretty much the only thing people will open from a source that they don't know. And some of them will get filtered out in the spam filter. There's no way around that at all. You just have to know that some stuff is not getting through. And that's why I always say to people, like, if someone's not replying to you from corporate, don't assume they're ignoring you, because it may be that they're filtered out. You're filtered out in the spam filter. Suzanne is saying, I watched the video on the Corporate Club advising there will be your book launch in London. Is there any updates on it? Were you thinking about coming? Right, well, I've got some spaces. The invites are just about to go out. I'm sure I can add you to the invite list if you would like to come along. It's in London on the 6th of September. It's in the same venue, the Parcel Yards. Parcel Yards are a really good venue because it's accessible, the staff are friendly, they cater for all different dietary needs, and it's in a central location that always feels quite safe. Like if you're coming on your own, it's in the middle of a huge busy station and everyone can get home from it. I'm always a bit cautious about that. With the brochure, do you think it matters if it's landscape or portrait, if it's in physical form? No, I don't think so. I think the quality of it matters more than anything else. If it looks nice, it's fine. Nicola's saying, I'm not planning to share my brochure unless someone's already a warm lead. I'm going to use a basic intro email for cold outreach as the initial way to contact stakeholders and then follow up a few times if there's no response. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Have we got any more questions? Oh, sorry, Nicola, you've got your hand up right in front of me.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I wanted to ask about starting a monthly newsletter and getting people who are potential leads, stakeholders onto that. One of the things that I've struggled with, which and I know some of the other ladies are the same from what they've mentioned before and today, is when you have that mix of B2C and B2B, and you're on LinkedIn and you're posting and putting things out there, is trying to talk to that potential stakeholder in a business or corporate for that side of our business, and how to kind of do that to begin the newsletters. That's one question, is how to go out there and say, I'm starting this newsletter, would you like to be on the list, and making it clear that it's a corporate newsletter. And then the second questions to people who have theirs already is, what is it like? Because I do the weekly, what I call newsletter to my B2C email list, which is more of a contact email, storytelling and so on, but I know the corporate newsletter would be very different, and I've put off starting it because I'm really unsure about what to put into it and feel this pressure that it has to be this amazing newsletter. I think to Paula's point about being a perfectionist.
So what I would say is, if you're going to start the newsletter, is it for businesses?
Yeah, so I wanted to start that newsletter again to build the authority and credibility, and to have a bit of a funnel. We touched on this right at the start about bringing potential stakeholders and leads in for the B2B side of our businesses. So I've heard that that's a good thing to offer.
Yeah, so I think the way you make it clear, I mean, it doesn't matter if people sign up who are personal and they're reading it, because they'll still get the info. But I think you want to think about what the title is and make it clear when you describe your newsletter. This is for people who are, I guess, responsible or accountable. Responsible and accountable are kind of either you can use either responsible for arranging wellbeing in the workplace, or this is for anyone with an interest in wellbeing in the workplace. So I would start to like use that in the explanation so that people start to see that, because you're not going to break it into two companies. So I would use language, and I would make sure the actual name of the newsletter has something workplacey. It doesn't have to be that word, but I just mean a word that would indicate, oh, this is about wellbeing at work, not necessarily just me on my own. So I would do that. Say a little bit more about your second question, because I think I can help with that. Do you mean it has to be corporate-y as opposed to your...
Like, what do you put into it? You know, I think I've seen a couple of people's newsletters, and it tends to have a format that looks like a newsletter with different articles. And is it about you writing and offering your expertise? Is it about you referencing maybe things that have been in the media, or if I'm going to do it monthly? It's just, yeah, kind of what, obviously you're doing it to build that know, like, and trust to potentially sell, but what is the content that's going to achieve that?
Yeah, so in terms of format, LinkedIn gives you a format, so you just have to follow their format. We've found that a nice image works pretty well. So get an image up there. You want to really consider, Nicola, whether you want to have your image, because I think that could be quite powerful for you, because you are looking to position yourself. I think you can do it in sort of content pillars, or you can just do it in one thing. And the thing that I do is that this is how I do mine every month. I speak to something that I know my particular audience struggle with and find it difficult to talk about in their arena. And if I can, I will make it kind of topical to something happening in our project world. Sometimes that's tricky because I can't talk about the project because I'm working on it. So it's in the headlines, but I'm like, well, I can't use my insight to mention it. But if you can do it where you're basically trying to use the newsletter to establish yourself probably as a thought leader in wellbeing in the workplace. So
yeah,
you're not going to do the same thing as me, talk about something they can't talk about. That's particularly the group of people that I know I'm talking to. But you're going to think about, okay, well, what is going to be useful, and what's going to position me as an expert. And then you're always going to want to give them like one piece of takeaway advice,
right,
and a call to action.
Right. And I think what I struggle with that is, am I doing this as in it's them that has the problem themselves, because that problem they have, their workforce, their team, you know, could have, or is it a problem that their workplace or organisation have?
So I think this is a way you could split your content to keep it quite interesting. You could do, and you could alternate this. You should be talking about what's the problem in the workplace and how wellbeing solves that problem. That should be the majority of what you're talking about. So you want to talk about what it, like, how it manifests itself, how you solve it, and then what the outcome is. And then you can do some where you talk to the people who have to book the wellbeing in the workplace. So then you make it really personal to them. And I don't know what challenges they might have, but you know, it could be, here's one that I'm going to speculate. Everyone wants wellbeing in the workplace to improve, but they don't want to spend any budget on it. They want you to perform miracles without any cost. And then you give them the way to explain that. Because you don't go, here's how I can be really cheap for you. You go, actually, you have to help them change the narrative to understand poor health costs workplaces this much, this little much investment could give them this kind of return. So that's like kind of giving them the business case narrative to fix the problem that they're struggling with as an individual. So I think you could have those sort of two things, you know, why workplaces should invest in well-being, what the benefits of it are, how that could look like, and then maybe like 1 in 3, you're having that direct conversation with the people who are trying to fix this problem about their actual problem with it.
Right.
I bet another one is quite often the people who have been asked to be the well-being leads are having it added to their job. They are expected to be some sort of like guru of well-being when they're actually exhausted from having extra jobs, and also they feel embarrassed promoting well-being when they know that they're not living like the well-being lifestyle that they are trying to get their employees to promote. Another one, so I said I had no ideas about this, but I forget. I've lived this. I lived this for 20 years. I've worked alongside these teams. The other one is that they will sometimes feel nervous about promoting a wellbeing agenda when they know the company does not mean it, and they know that people are being asked to like engage with wellbeing whilst working unsustainable hours or under unsustainable conditions that no one could potentially thrive in. You know, there are environments where no human has ever been designed to have well-being in this setting, and yet the HR people or the well-being team will be like, yeah, we'll just like up the well-being, and they know that's not happening. We're making 10,000 people redundant next week. How is well-being going to make everyone like come in and be totally zen and chilled and feel great? So those are some ideas that I would do, like speaking to them. I would say as well with your newsletter, you don't really want to go over 600 words. That's like,
all right, okay.
600 words is plenty. I only do mine monthly as well because I feel there's a better read rate on it monthly in corporate. There's no way in corporate I'd have read somebody's newsletter every single week. I just would not have had the time. The people who are reading newsletters every week in corporate are not the decision makers, because they are people who are not like, if they've got time in their hands in corporate, they're generally not in a position of power. They are generally sidelined to a job to cause as least mischief as possible.
Oh, that helps. That yeah, exactly. I think I'd built it up to be something much grander. Do you know, that has to be this fancy newsletter, kind of like a magazine thing with different articles and features and so on. But I like what you've explained there, and I think it's about like everything, just started and then get going and see how it goes. And I hadn't really thought about the LinkedIn piece either, that actually it's done through LinkedIn. It's not the way we would do for B2C with the whole funnel and getting people onto a list that way.
It's dead easy. They've even got a format for like headlines and subheads. So like once I've written the words, it can be uploaded. I actually still upload my own LinkedIn newsletters. That's the one thing I still sort of always even do like that end of it at the moment. And it's dead simple. It takes a few minutes. And we definitely good traction. Whenever I write any personal stuff in it, we always get an even bigger response. So I'm always like, this is the thing people will love. This is the way you solve. And it'll be like some technical thing, and it'll just be like crickets. And then I'll put something out about, I remember it was really hard when, you know, we'll bust the budget and I was the person that had to go and tell government, and, you know, I'll talk about how I felt about it. You know, you've got the poker face, but feeling the people will just write to you like, oh my goodness, this is me, like this is my life. So
I like that, and I have done a lot of posts on that, and actually linking to Sanal's comment in the chat there about blogs working as newsletters, because at the start of the year I did that whole kind of focus that we talked about in here about doing, you know, like 4 or 5 weeks of an article every week and showing your authority. And so from what you've described there with the newsletter, it's quite similar really to the article, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess just trying to differentiate it, and then maybe if you put something in the newsletter that would work as an article to perhaps make it a bit different, and again repurposing it for posts.
Yeah, I would say the blogs that are on my webpage are pretty much the same format as our LinkedIn newsletter, and we're actually just about to start replicating them all the time.
Great, yeah, because I've got a lot of blogs, so I could maybe look to try and use some of that and repurpose it, like what Sanal's suggesting.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And Zane is saying it's strange she cannot set up a newsletter on LinkedIn. You should be able to. You should be able to. I'm not sure why you can't.
I think it required to have the creator mode on. So I put the creator mode on and been going through and reading all these settings, and I did everything what I need to do. I think it took about 20 days to propagate that option on LinkedIn. But now that I go onto the settings, I still don't have option, go and set up a new, I just don't have it. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know the answer. I'll tell you who I would ask. Sam Labanzu or Denise Matthews. They are they are LinkedIn gurus. They know if there's not a button on it that one of those two do not know what it does. I use it for the stuff that I do, but then they'll tell me something. I'm like, I've never even heard of that. So I would tag them in the group and ask them the question, because I'm sure they'll be able to tell you why.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, LinkedIn is another thing what you need to get your head around.
Zane, was that on your personal page or your business page? And which actually should you use to do your newsletter from?
Oh, well, I tried on my personal profile.
Right.
I think you can set up newsletters like featured posts on your business page on LinkedIn. That's what I saw, but I haven't got yet into that because there's so much I'm trying to sort out. But it's really strange. This profile is something to really study.
Yeah, I have to go because I've got a meeting starting right after this. I would definitely ask one of them because they will know the answer to that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, folks, I better go.
You.
Lovely to see you all. Nice Q&A this month, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.